Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the HB Studio podcast with Tim and Kristin. In part 2 of our interview with John Bost, we're going to talk about beekeeping, business, and alignment. That's right. John is going to delve deeper into the insights and experiences of his background in business and in the world of theology. And Kristin is going to bring a unique perspective by discussing the fascinating world of beekeeping. And it's surprising how they connect with business. John also shares invaluable advice on the concept of alignment and how to achieve success through it. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and enjoy this episode with John Bost, part 2.
That's my coach. And was here 13 years before I knew we had a mayor. And some neighbors began to talk to me. So I called the mayor and said, hey, this conversation is going on. And eventually I couldn't find a good no. So I ran against Ed. And I had never met Ed before. Great guy. And that got me into the mayorship in Clemens. The municipal part I had already experienced from about probably 8 to 20 years of engagement with the planning sector in Winston-Salem, South County, et cetera. But that's just what I do. And over that time, back around to Kristin's comment, we have launched a few businesses, a lot of nonprofits. The nonprofits are businesses, by the way. It's just that the revenue is tax exempt. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people don't understand that. They just think, hey, that's kind of like a
fun hobby.
It's not. It's not. So anyhow, that's a little bit of background from my perspective. And why I'm here, because I want to be able to share the stuff that I've learned, and probably in a better way than I've been able to capture in now my 6th book, which should come out this fall. I'm impressed with the editor. In fact, I told her she should be the writer, and she bowed out on me. But the author. I put her name on. I don't care. Just get stuff out there. But anyway, so I'm gabbing now, so I can hear everybody.
Well, so Tim and I started this podcast because we felt that there was a need in just a little bit of lightness within our community as far as the business sector and the personal sector, and just being able to toggle between the two, because we see these businesses as opportunities to get to know our community. People are in their businesses because they have a special gift, or they have a special talent, or they have a special desire to infuse our community with whatever their product is. But what at the heart of all these businesses and products and financial gains or losses are people. Mm-hmm. And so we don't...
By the way, I've never had a loss. You pointed at me when you were talking.
I did.
Yeah, I've never had a loss.
Losses. Hold on, can I do double losses?
It's good sitting with the winner, man. I like
me too. Can only rub some
No, I just know when to bow out. Second fiddle, that's what I came here for. I'm out of here.
Because the first one can exactly. Like control it.
Yeah, right.
Keep it going.
You got it.
Step on back.
Have at it.
Yeah, but we talk to just the people. I mean, that's what we do. We realize that we're all very similar, and we all wake up. Thank you, God, for waking us up every day and giving us opportunity to collaborate. And so we just wanted to record a little bit of that and bring our community in and chat. That's it. It's very lighthearted in here.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Well, I can get along well with lighthearted. I'm not frivolous in my comments, but at the same time, I really don't take myself that serious. I know that I represent, again, back to my former state, I represent a piece of God that passes understanding. So if you're a biblical scholar, you know I just misquoted that, because it's the PEACE of God that passes understanding, which is our promise to have that peace. I read that as we are a PIECE of God that passes understanding. When I meet you, Tim, I meet a piece of God, never again assigned to another. Because this being that sets over millions of galaxies is inexhaustible. Gender, I don't know. It doesn't seem there is one there, but we tend to call him him. Yeah, but that's...
What about me? Am I a piece of this? Golly. Tim's getting all the credit. Per usual.
No, you just pass understanding. So
Per
we're
usual,
we're
Tim.
without words.
The Tim Show. With the second fiddle, Kristin.
Okay.
Is that her name? I don't know.
That could be where this is going.
Lighthearted.
Thank you, John.
Lighthearted. Yeah. You're fine.
Yeah. So you said you had questions about business or what have you?
Yeah.
Might
So
be laughable when you hear my answer.
So I'm really curious about this, John. What is it about the businesses that you became a part of, and so in your support? What was it about those individuals that you saw that you were like, they got what it takes to get it done?
Yeah. Well, I shared some of this at the chamber meeting. I believe that everyone has a purpose for existence. I believe everyone has a providential assignment, a sovereign assignment. I'm very serious about that. And so if I can in some way enable them to unpack that, then humanity benefits from that. And so if I tell people that if you don't have a plan for your life, I certainly do, pardon me. And so in a lot of situations, for instance, the transfer station, I was in planning board meetings. I kept hearing that we needed airspace at Haynes Mill, and the old Salisbury Road would be exhausted in 10 years. I'm like, well, shoot, let's do something. So we opened the transfer station. That is where you bring in 3 truckloads of garbage and take one to Uwharrie, and they reprocess it. And then later had some land left over, so we opened the construction debris landfill. I know nothing about that. I just knew people that did. And so I tell people, if you've got a great idea, we get in a room together. I can probably tell you who's missing from the room and maybe be a couple of phone calls away.
So just backing way up to education, what was your specialty in your education?
Yeah.
What did you focus on to have this gift of discernment in the business arena?
Okay. So I loved, as I said earlier, maybe before we went live, I love creation. I've always loved animals. I've always loved pets, that sort of thing. And had thought about maybe one day being a veterinarian, because that was a person with the animals that we had you couldn't afford.
Yeah.
And so, maybe become a veterinarian. And then honestly, when I realized what all was involved, again, as a blue collar kid with no money, you got to go to college, you got to go to, grad school, et cetera. And so that kind of fell by the wayside until I realized that, it's either college or Vietnam at a certain point. And I had a low draft number, and so I inquired about college. Winston-Salem Foundation gave me a loan, gave my friend a loan. Neither of our dads could pay it back, but they signed for each other. So we went to college, and I got in the short line. I believe providentially the short line was because it was biology, physics, and chemistry. And got out, owed $2,000, decided, God, that's a monster fee. College debt, $2,000. I was like, I can't do this.
No, how good.
So I started loading trucks on the dock, and I heard about a chemistry teacher that was needed at North Davidson. And I had connections there at that time. Teach chemistry for a year and pay off the debt. And then I had also, during that window of time, been promised a fellowship at Wake Forest in physiology. Wow. And I would go there, and then that would get me on toward some of my earlier dreams. I fell in love with the kids, taught science for 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
And got involved in the community, began attending church because I was invited to a prayer breakfast, and my principal then put me in charge of leadership. So that kind of got me thinking about, okay, how do churches really work? And so I went back and got a master's in community development and resource development and began working with our district and that sort of thing. And lo and behold, when I finished that, I walk into the back porch where our wash machine was in our little first house, and my wife had laid a newspaper on the wash machine, and I saw where a person resigned from the neighboring school system, a requirement being that you lived in the city. Well, we did. So I called, because when I looked at the newspaper, I heard this voice say, that's your job. And I was a community relations person for 5 years. And then folk began to talk about next step toward becoming school superintendent. I went back and got my certification, got my third degree in leadership and administration. In the meantime, a young pastor began talking to me about his needs, and so I resigned and became an executive pastor. It goes on and on.
So you just kind of stepped in. You just step.
If you do what you love, money will find you.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a fact.
Well, there's your business nugget right there.
Yeah.
We can stop recording.
We're good. All right. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for listening.
I mean, that's true though. Right? You know, Kristin and I talk on podcasts about motivation and, you know, culture and, you know, people being in a particular situation or environment where that they're not necessarily invested in the culture, but their drive always puts them in a position where they succeed or at least excel. And now that's interesting you mentioned that because I love teaching. I wasn't making a lot of money doing it, but I love doing it. But that opportunity led me to where I am now in voiceover and audio engineering. So I try to stay focused on what meant the most to me, which was my peace and my happiness. But I tried to maneuver and try to keep that in perspective. So
you just described alignment.
There we go.
Relationship and alignment. Do what you love, money will find you. Relationships that are built around what you love, and then alignment within those relationships toward what you perceive the best delivery of your calling is. Somehow jumbled in there is a strategy that I live by.
The HB Studio Podcast is brought to you by the historic Roy Hill in Clemens, North Carolina. The opinions and thoughts presented on this podcast are that of Kristin, Tim, and their guests alone. Our goal is to bring positive motivation through real-life experiences and training as business professionals. Thank you for listening.